Hey all. So when I originally was going to make this video, I was going to do this cool kind of Indiana Jones intro type thing, and then an wrist injury and such got in the way. So decided to change that up. But for this video, I'm going to teach you how to make a whip. Now see, this is my first whip. This is the first one I ever made. It took me several hours, but I have played with it. It's been a ton of fun. I've made them for friends, for my brothers, for other people. It's not anything I'm making money off of. It's just something fun to do. And it's something you can do with very little expense and with, if you got a bunch of cheap cord, it's something you can do. So in this video, I'm going to teach you all the steps to make your own paracord whip. And if you watch till the very end, I have an exciting announcement, but not until the end. So stay tuned, bring your notepad, and watch me do this, screw up a couple times, and show you it all. So stay tuned. Okay, so we're going to make this whip. And the thing I love about this project is you can use a lot of stuff you have around the house. But here's what you're going to need. First, you're going to need a 6 to 8 inch screw or nail or spike or something like that. I personally prefer metal. You can use wood. I would highly recommend you not use plastic, because plastic, with the whipping action, the plastic can break down and it could break, and that's the last thing you want. You can pick up a nail like this at Lowe's or Home Depot for about 68 to 90 cents. So, but if you have a old bolt or something like that, or even a screw this long, that'll work. So 6 to 8 inches. You're going to need 130 feet of paracord. Specifically though, you're going to need cheap paracord, and I'll explain why. All but about 4.5 feet of this, you're going to be pulling the innards out. You're just going to be using the nylon sheath or the sheath, so it can be cheap paracord. On top of it, you don't even have to get new, because only the exterior is going to be visible. You're going to have approximately, let's say, 40 feet, if not more, that's going to be hidden. So it doesn't all have to be the same. You're going to need electrical tape. I would suggest a full roll or nearly full roll. You can use paper tape, but my personal preference is electrical tape. You're going to need BBs. Now, we'll go into this in a little bit, but the reason for the BBs is on a normal whip, you would have a steel cable. This will replace that. So now, you can not use the BBs if you have some stereo wire that's about the same width as a BB. You can use that, but the BBs give you some heft, and you're going to need that. You're going to need a knife or some scissors, sharp. You're going to need super glue. You're going to need at least one, if not two of these. Okay? You're going to need a tape measure of some kind. You are going to need a lighter. You are going to need at least one pair of pliers, maybe two. And finally, you are going to need a fid. Now, it doesn't have to be um, anything specific, but you're going to need a fid at some point. This is the core. This is what you have to have. Some additional things I would recommend: a vise. It'll make it easier for you. You're going to have to clamp this down at some point. A vise will make it easy, but you can just use some type of clamp or something else. If you have access to it, pair of hemostats. This will come in handy towards the very end. Once again, not a necessity, nice to have. Sandpaper for some prep work. I'll show you why here soon. You're going to need some acetone. If you don't have acetone, you're going to need some rubbing alcohol and a rag. And finally, fingernail polish. Once again, these last 5 are not required. They're just a nice to have. So these are all the requirements. Let's go into phase 1. So we'll put this stuff off to the side. Phase 1 really goes into the first part, and that is setting up the base. Now, whether you're using a used or a new screw, bolt, nail, what have you, one thing I like to do, this is optional, but one thing I like to do is I like to prep it. You don't know how this was at the hardware store. You don't know how it was beforehand. So what I like to do is take a little bit of sandpaper. Now this is 150 grit, and really I like to just take it and just do a little bit of this. Why? Because at one point we are going to be gluing paracord to this, and I want to get any oils, any grit, anything loose off to make sure that we have a good bond. Now, if you have a rotary sander or anything like that, you could come in and just do a quick, it doesn't have to be anything major. As I said, we're just trying to get some of the excess off. Okay? Once you have done that, just take a rag. I have a rag here with a little bit of acetone. I'm just going to come along. And really the idea here, let's get the oils off. Let's get any kind of oil, any kind of residue off, and go from there. This way, whatever we do, it will stick better and won't have to worry about any of the stuff I've done coming off. And we let that sit and clean up my workspace a little bit. Let that sit and dry. Now the next thing I like to do is, and this will become more apparent towards the end, this part right here, the butt, the head, will be exposed. Now there are some things you can do to cover this. Some people like to put a nice little knob or something like that, but it might be exposed. So what I like to do is I'll put this in my vise, which I need oil, and I like to give it a coat of fingernail polish. Now, you can also use a model paint. Heck, you could use any type, you could use Rust-Oleum, but I just like to get the very end just to offer it a layer of protection. So what I'll do is I'll just come in and I will paint the head here. and let that dry. It also gives it a nicer look. Now, these are not going to be whips that you will sell. At least I would not recommend you do so. But they're fun to play with. I have given them to friends. I've made them for friends. I've made them for my brothers. And, you know, we adult men went out and lived our Indiana Jones fantasies that we used to do with jump rope, and just have a good time with it. I think I freaked out my neighbor one time because I was in my backyard after I made my first one, whipping my palm trees, just trying to get a better feel for it. So this doesn't have to be, you know, perfect. You just don't want any drips. And then we're going to let that sit. And that's, once you have done this, you won't need any acetone or fingernail polish or anything else. We're done with that. This is done. Okay, I'm now going to take this, get it out of the way, let it dry. And the next part of phase one is we have to prep up for the base. Now, what is the base? The base is going to be made up out of 3 pieces of paracord. This is where you can use some of the stuff you just have laying around. So I have this orange cord, okay? It's nothing cord. So what you're going to need is take 1.5 feet. So we're going to do 1.5 feet, that's 18 inches. So I'm going to cut off 18 inches. You're going to need, that's one. You're going to need 3.5 inches. And that is going to be also, much like this, hollowed out. So let me cut that. So you got these 2 pieces, and then you're going to need 4.5 feet. I'm sorry, if I've been saying inches, I meant feet. You're going to need 4.5 feet of intact paracord. So when I say intact, I'm talking about not cut, not hollowed out. Okay, so I just used some old paracord I had. What I'm going to do with these, I'm going to light these up and burn them off, because this one is going to, like I said, it's going to stay with the cord with this stuff inside it. It doesn't have to be pretty. Once again, this will get covered up. Now, as I said before, I've used a lot of different tutorials out there, and there's a bunch. I am taking, and what I'm showing you is a mishmash of the different versions of ones and how I do it. And I take aspects of every single different one out there. So now this is the 3.5 feet. I took all the innards out. I'm not going to need it. Pitch it. I'm done with it. So what you're going to do is you're going to melt one end just to seal it closed. And then this is where you're going to need your BBs. For this 3.5 foot one, you are going to take your BBs and have to, and this is not fun, but it's going to take you some time. You're going to feed the BBs into the paracord. And this is actually going to, because you can see here, it's stretching out the paracord itself. It's actually going to shrink up the paracord. But you're going to need this filled with 2.5 feet of BBs. So this is going to take you some time. So what I'd suggest you do, find something on Netflix, find something you've been meaning to watch, hunker down, and start filling. So I'm going to do this one and the 1.5 foot one. This one here, you're going to do the exact same thing, except for you're going to put 13 inches of BBs. So once again, 1.5 feet is going to go to 13 inches of BBs. You can leave the excess, and the 3.5 feet, you're going to go to 2.5 feet of BBs. Now you might be saying, Joe, why BBs and not just wire? Well, I have tried to use, say, RCA wire, or not RCA, well, coax wire. It doesn't give the flexibility. The individual BBs give some flexibility. They also give weight. And weight is important for the movement of the whip. So, as I said, at this point, you're going to be doing this for a while. It's going to take you a while. This might be something you just start on, work on through the day, and then come back to later on down the line. So I'm going to finish this and I'll be back. Okay, so you can see here I am done. Just to show you how much the putting the BBs in impacts. You know, I cut a 1.5 foot piece, and after all that, it went from 18 inches down to 14. There's a 1-inch piece here that is will go on the actual spike. In the case of the 3.5 foot one, you'll see 3.5 feet. Went down to 31 inches. So this will shrink up. Now, next step, and this is the final step for phase one. We take this, and what we're going to do, first off, you need to seal this end. So let me do that real quick. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to take and we're going to glue this 1 inch from the tip and back. Now see, if this were a sharper tip, I would actually have blunted this out. Maybe taken my Dremel, and you know what, I might still do that. Let me do that real quick. And the reason I do that, to dull it out, I don't want it snagging against the cord. So anyway, and you can see here, this finished. So I'm gonna take my handy dandy Harbor Freight super glue. And if you don't know, Harbor Freight, I picked up a pack of 3 of these for $1, and I got a huge roll of tape for, I want to say it was like $3.99, but either way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm just going to run a generous amount right on here, just like so. And I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to put it on and kind of hold it in place. Now, this will only take a couple minutes, but what I'm going to do here is I'm putting this one here, and then I'm going to put this longer one and this even longer one. I'm going to take and put these equidistant amount on the nail. Okay. Now, I'm going to kind of come over. I'm going to take the regular piece, same thing. I want to take about the same amount. The idea being that I want it right about here. I just want to double check, make sure I'm getting it equidistant. So, we get about the same amount. I'm going to put a bunch of glue on here. And then I'm just going to seal it up. And try not to get your finger stuck to it, because otherwise you may rip it off, just like I just did. So let's try this again. You know what, guys? I'm not afraid to show you when I screw up, because you can learn from that. There are other creators out there that will only show you perfection, and then when you're trying it and you're messing up or it's not coming out perfectly, you're like, what the hell did I do? And I know about you, but I rarely do anything right perfectly the first time. So let that sit. Now, this doesn't have to sit for too awful long. You just want it to get a good adhesion. And that's the big part about it, is you just want good adhesion. Okay, so the last piece, we're going to put the last piece on. Same thing, about the same length. I'm going to go ahead and put this on. Get that all real nice. And you see, I got my finger stuck on here. I have a love-hate relationship with super glue, I really do. So we're going to let that sit. And now guys, I've been cutting in between here. I'm letting each one sit for about 3 to 5 minutes between each one. So I don't want you to think I'm hurrying up doing it, hurrying up doing it. No, I'm taking my time. This is going to be a thing of patience. I will tell you, the last one I made, I watched The Irishman, Thor Ragnarok, and something else. And that was just doing phase 2 and 3. Well, no, that was part of phase 1 and then phase 2 and 3. So you can cut this out over a bunch of nights. You can do it out over a weekend, or you can just do it, knock it out in one day. You're just going to have time. So I'm going to pause here, be right back. Okay, so here we go. This is pretty good. What we're going to do now is you're going to need your electrical tape. We're going to reinforce that bond right there. So just take this. We're going to twist it up, get it on there, and then we're going to do, and the glue might still be a tad bit tacky. That's okay. We're going to get that on there and tighten it up a bit. I'm going to come back. Now what you're going to do is you're going to wrap this entire thing. This is why I said you're going to need a full roll of electrical tape. Now, some people will tell you that they use masking tape or paper tape. I'm not a big fan of that. I tried that with one, and my biggest problem was it tore. Masking tape and paper tape tore too easily. Now, some people think it glues better, and maybe it does, but the tearing was kind of like a no-go for me. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue. We're going to wrap it, rewrap down through here. And don't worry if there's some bubbles. We'll take care of that. What you're going to do, get these laying properly. You're going to come back through. And if you need to mount this on a vise to help you, go right ahead. In fact, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get this in here. And yes, I know I need to oil my vise. I'm going to come in and I'm just going to hold these. And you are going to tape the entire thing. Now, real quick, before I do that though, I want to talk about this. I mentioned you can use some wire or cabling or little whatever. You can completely do that. One thing though you will notice as you were working on this, how heavy this is. This adds weight. The longer part, now I'm not a whip expert, but from what I understand, that helps provide the length. But the BBs, or if you can find something similar, like I said, like a wire or anything like that, it provides weight. The reason that you can't use, like say, coax cable is you need the flexibility, and that single copper wire isn't going to do it. If you got some monster cable for speaker wire, that would probably give you the flexibility, but I don't know if it's going to give you the weight. I'll be honest, I have not tried it with wire. I looked at doing it, but I found that using the BBs, this works better. This works really well for me. You will have some people that will tell you you need to use only copper BBs. Don't use the zinc. Or even the lead or the metal one or other metal ones. I've done both. Doesn't really matter. I have not seen a performance difference. That might just be a preference, but anywho. So what you're going to do is you're going to wrap this until you get to here. And then you're going to wrap right up until you get to here, and then you can stop. Let me complete this. I'll show you, and then we will end phase one. Okay, so now something you can do, some people do this, I will do it occasionally, is I'll run quick heat over it, and then I will roll this. And that's just to try and tighten up the electrical tape, which is another reason why I prefer electrical tape. So I'm going to change the switch on this. And all I'm doing is I'm not trying to burn it, I'm just trying to get it hot, make it shrink a little bit, tighten up some of those, any bubbles. Then I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to roll, just like that, and I'm going to do that all along it. It's not going to be perfectly round or anything else because, you know, it's got the BBs, it's got all that mess. But then occasionally I'll just take this. Once again, just going to roll. You don't want it so hot that it's like melting on your fingers, but just a little warm. That's it. That's all you need. And there we go. Phase one is done. I'm stopping for the night. We'll pick up for phase two tomorrow. Okay, all, we're now on to phase two. Phase two is the second band. Now, what I like about this is you can still use scraps. Much like with this, we're going to wind up wrapping this all in tape. So what you're going to need with a hollowed out core is two 11-foot pieces, a 9-foot piece, and a 7-foot piece. Now, the 11-foot need to be centered. So make sure you find the center, and that has to be what you put on the base. For the other two, though, they need to be 6 inches off center. So when I say 6 inches off center, what I'm saying is one side needs to be 6 inches longer than the other. Now, I would recommend that you alternate. So if one side is right, the other side needs to be left. So I have my 9-foot piece here. What I'm going to do, this is my 9-foot piece. They are centered now. I'm going to take, I have a ruler over here. I'm going to find 6 inches. So now you can see. Now I'm going to take and find the midpoint there. And that's what I will put for band number 3. For number 4, that is 7 foot with 6 inches off center. So once again, it's going to look kind of like this. I'm going to find the midpoint, and I'm going to put that for strand number 4. Actually, I think yep, see, I messed up. So I need to flip that around so that the off-center piece is opposite what I had before. So this is, once again, 11 foot, 11 foot, 9 foot, 6 inches off center, and 9 foot, or 7 foot, 6 inches off center. You're going to put that here. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take your super glue, lift those up, and you're going to put a whole mess of super glue to glue these down, just like so. You're going to want to let that sit for a few moments to get good and locked in. Do not tape them. Just let it get in there and get glued to that tape. Because what we're going to do is I'm going to start off, I'm going to adjust this slightly. Now I'm going to wind up moving this eventually, but I want to show you I'm going to give this 5 minutes to glue. We'll be right back. Okay, so it has now been actually 6 minutes. Sorry, had to go make some coffee. Now comes the fun part. Now I will be upfront with you guys. This, I've made at least 15 whips, and this is always the part that messes me up. So what we're going to do is a kind of a braid for this, and what you do is we're going to take this first one and we're going to go, you're going to count 2. So 1, 2. We're going to go under 2. And then over 2. And you're going to want to kind of get this kind of tight. And you let it hang a little bit. And then you're going to take the next one. And you see now you have this one. So now you're going to count these 2, 1, 2. You're going to go you're going to go under 2. And then you're going to go one, 2, over 2. You're just going to want to tighten up the previous ones. And now we have this next one. And you're just going to kind of continue to do that pattern. Under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2. And you're going to just continue to do that for a while. So I'm going to go and do this, and then I'm going to come back and show you what it looks like as I get further on. Okay, something I forgot to tell you guys to do, and I found this very helpful. As you're doing this, you're going to want to come in and tighten these. It's impossible to keep them tight the entire time. So what I do along the way with each one is I just kind of tighten the braid or the weave or however you want to call it. You don't want this to get too loose. So I'm going to go ahead and, like for this one, I'm going to go the under, and I'm going to go see, it's really easy to get lost too. So I'm going to go under, and I'm going to go over, and I'm just going to tighten it up. So just remember as you're working on this to do that. I'm coming to the end of the orange. So I only have this much left on this little piece because it's offset. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come around with this piece, and then, once again, I'm going to tighten this up. Then I'm going to come around with this piece. Now, you don't have to do this. You don't have to. Ideally, what will happen is as you're wrapping it, the weight of one of the other cords will hold it down. But what I like to do is take just a little bit of the glue, just a tad bit. I'm going to put it right here on the edge. I'm going to put it down, and I'm just going to hold it. This is where the hemostats can come into help. You can just kind of put it in place, lock it in like that, let it sit for a while. That's just going to keep it from slipping. It's just a tad bit of glue, but it'll help. Now you may be asking though, what about the other piece of orange? Let me show you. So it's already on there pretty well. So once again, I'm just going to wrap it up. And you're going to treat it as if it's still a piece. And you see, even if you don't want to use the glue, once you wrap it, it should stay in place. Just having a little bit of that glue, it's just an added bonus. Now what's going to happen though is you're going to start throwing off your pattern because you have 4 on one side and only 3 on the other. You're going to continue to do 2 and 2. Okay. We'll go 2. And 2. Tighten up again. Once again, I tighten after every single set. That's just me. I'm kind of anal retentive that way. Now what you're going to do is you're going to come around. I'm going to do the 2. I'm going to come over here. And what I'm going to do is, much like I did with the other one, I'm going to glue that piece down. I'm going to take a little bit of glue, not a lot. I'm going to glue it down, just like so. Grab the hemostats, lock it in, let it sit. I'm going to let that sit, and then what I'll do is I will wrap, and you'll see here in a minute, but I'm going to continue to wrap around it. So that's on there good now. Now this isn't what we'll do on the next phase, but this is what I do for here. So now we're going to treat it as if we have 3 and 3. So we're just going to go still 2, or actually, hold on. So we came over, we still have to do the over piece. So now we're going to treat that orange one as if it's not there. And we will do 2. Tighten. And then 2. And tighten. What we're going to do is we're going to get far enough along. I'm still going to tighten that up a little bit. We're going to get far enough along here that as we go down, we will eventually snip, and we'll either snip it, or if we can, we'll wrap it underneath so that it's just completely buried. And that's what you're going to do with all the shorter pieces too as you're coming along. So let me show you how it's going to end here. Let me finish this up and I'll show you how it's going to end. Okay, so now at some point you're going to get to the point where you're going to have only 3 on one side and 2 on the other. So what you're going to need to do here, and this can kind of jack with your head a little bit, especially after you had that really nice pattern going. you're going to go 2 under, but only 1 over. And you're going to repeat that until this small band is completely gone. So once again, that's 2, and you're going to want to keep this tight, and it's going to want to try and be loose. So you're going to go 2 and then 1. And you're going to continue to do that until this small piece is completely covered. Because what we're going to do next may seem a little counterintuitive, but I'll show you when we get there. Okay, so we're at the last piece of this. So kind of like we did with the others, I'm going to take a little bit of the glue. I'm just going to put some glue right there. Get that pushed down. Get that in place. Okay, so we got that in place, as you can see. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do one last. We're going to come over just to cover that up. And we're going to come over. We're going to do just one last piece. And these are the 11-foot ones here. Go one more time. One more time. And then you can do, got a couple of options here. I'm going to take my hemostats. You can use those. What you can also do is if you have a small pair of vice grips or something like that, you can do that too. Now, this isn't tight, so I'm going to get that nice and tight. Get that on there. And here's what we're going to do. So we have, you can see a variety of lengths, but it's all about the same. We want to kind of taper these a little bit. The reason being, we're actually going to tape this up. So what you want to do is I'm going to take my pliers. You can use scissors or you can use your knife. And I'm just going to snip because I want these to layer differently. So I'm going to take this one, snip it a little bit. Snip this one. And then I'm just going to snip this one. Okay, so then unclamp. What you're going to do is you're just going to kind of layer these out. You can, if you want, continue to do the 1 over 1 over. You can continue, or and 1 over. You can continue to do that. You can go as far down as you want to go. This is your whip. To quote Bob Ross, make it your own. There is no exactly right or wrong way to do it. 1 over. And you could get this all the way down. And see, I confuse myself all the time because I get caught in that habit of the 2 over, 2 under, and so you can continue to go all the way down if you want. Now you have the option, you can just layer these and just tape it, or you can get it down as low as you feel like. But what you're going to do is once you decide where you want to go or how far down you want to go, what you're going to do is you're going to tape it. And you're going to tape these ends so that you can wrap this entire second piece. You're going to do that very similar to what we did last time. So let me complete this and I'll show you what it looks like. So you can see here I got it all done. I got it right down to the bare bones. And now I'm going to layer these up. And I'm just going to tape this. I'm going to get it really nice and really tight. And then, once I've done that, I'm going to come back and I'm going to tape the entire piece. And then I'll show you what to do next. So you're going to start here. You're going to tape it all the way up to the top. When we come back, I'll show you how we will end phase 2. So you can see I have it here on the floor. No, I'm not mad at it. I didn't throw it down in disgust. What I'm doing now is kind of like what I do with my bracelets. I'm going to roll it. Why, you may ask? Because it helps even out the cord. You're going to notice you still got a little lump here. You may have always had that. It's not a big deal. But this just helps even out the cord, even out your taping, kind of finish that up, etc. So just do this for a little bit, roll it. It's all good. And then with that, we're done with phase 2. And you can see it's already becoming a whip. So tomorrow we'll tackle phase 3. Welcome back, my friends, and welcome to phase 3. So what do we have here? These are going to be the exteriors. So this is going to be the colors you want displayed on your whip. These will not be covered up by anything. So we have here 6 different strands. These two, the top two, are 19 feet each. And then we go 14 feet, 12 feet, 10 feet, and 7 feet. These bottom 4 are offset by 6 inches each. much like we did last time. So now I alternated. I think that works out better. You do what you want to do, but that's how I do it. Now I have also uh, super glued these down already, so they're good and tight. And so what we're going to do here is last time we did under 2 over 2. Now what we're going to do is under 3 over 3. Now this is gonna, now these are all, the core has been removed from all these, so um, similar to last time, you're gonna wanna keep it really tight as you go. And you're just going to, once again, under 3, and then over 3. So this is going to take you a while. You're going to be here for a while. So what I would suggest you do is find something on Netflix, on YouTube, what have you, and just settle in because you're going to be here for a while and you're going to be doing this. I'm going to come back when we get to the point where we're going to have to get to the ends because we're going to do something a little bit different than we did last time. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit different than last time. We're coming to the end here of one of these. So what we're going to do is I'll bring this one over. That's fine. Then I'm going to bring this one over. And what we're going to do is, because we're not going to wrap this, so we have the problem of it might be a little bit, in this case, it's kind of sticks up. And we don't want to deal with that. So if you have that, you want to make sure you smash it down so it can get as flat as possible. Then what you're going to do is similar to last time. Well, first, you want to make sure all of these are tight because you are going to, like last time, super glue. I told you super glue is going to be your friend on this with this project. So you're going to want to get its final placement and then get a hearty helping. Put that right there. Get that on. Let it sit for a minute or two. And then, now realize this is why you got to get these all nice and tight, because when you're going to come back over it with your next layer, there may be some residual. Unless you're going to let this sit here for 5-10 minutes, you're going to have some residual glue. So make sure these are all tight. Come back through. You're going to want to do that with here. Then you're going to want to come back over. And this will help hold it down. Come over. Come over. There we go. Now, right now, it looks weird because it's not wrapping fully over. But as we continue to go down this way, it will start to cover. And now what's going to happen is your pattern is going to be a little bit broken up. And this is one of the problems with not doing a uniform color. your pattern is going to be a little off, which is one of the reasons why I like to kind of go either uniform or a 2-color. I've seen some people try a 3-color. You know what? Great. But if you're OCD and you have issues with the color pattern being off, then you're going to have some problems coming up here. So I'm going to finish this so you can see, so we can get to the end, because at the end of phase 3, then we have to prep for the final phase, phase 4. So I'll come back, but as you run into more and more of these ends, you're going to keep going until you get to the last 4. And then when we get to the last 4, things are going to change. So stay tuned. Okay, so you may run into this along the way. You got a piece like this. It's a little bit longer. You know it's not long enough to do anything with. What the heck do you do? Let me show you. So you go ahead and then you just go over it like you normally would. You want to go over it once, maybe twice. And I'll show you why. So you're going to get it. Sorry, I'm trying to not shake the camera. So you got it here. Let's go over it. Now what you're going to want to do though is you're going to want to kind of move it to the side, to the center here a little bit, but not too much. The reason being, what we're going to do, or what we'll wind up doing, and don't count this as one of yours. So you'll go, we got this one, and then we're going to come over and do this. So now we got a couple layers over it, and that'll be good. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take this one, kind of twist it up a little bit. Make sure everything is tight, because once again we're going to pull out our friend super glue. And we're going to take the super glue and we're going to go right along through here. And you're just going to bury it. And I actually forgot to take I'm going to come back and I'll either trim this because it's poking here. I forgot to either smash it or trim it. So I'll do one of the two. I'm going to let that get in there, and basically then, now we're down to 4 on each side, or not 4. 4 on one side, 5 on the other. We're going to continue to do 3 and 3. But what we'll do is we're just going to bury it basically underneath. This is not going to interfere with anything or anything along those lines. It's just, and you can see our pattern that we had earlier is falling away. It kind of, but it's not too bad. Now, had we not done off center, it would have, the pattern would have stayed somewhat consistent. The problem that you run into if you don't go off center is both the ends end at the same point, and therefore you create a weak spot where it can unravel. Now what some people will do is they will go underneath, and you can do this, but they'll cross and go underneath, and then they may glue and try and melt the pieces together.
But what I have found, I tried that on one, and when I started whipping with it and playing around with it, and this was when I was giving to a friend because I always try them out before I give them out. Um, it actually came undone. So that's why I do it this way. So just word to the wise. Another question you may have is, Joe, I want a longer handle. You can do that. You can go in, and if you wanted a 10-inch handle, you could do that. Um, if you do that, you're going to wind up shortening the whip portion, or you will have to calculate how much extra cord you're going to need for every additional inch. I don't know what it is off the top of my head. I want to say it's somewhere in the neighborhood of, for every inch, you're going to need about 1.5 feet. But don't quote me on that. I'm going from memory. But yeah, if you wanted a bigger handle or like a longer handle, you could do that. If you wanted a bigger handle, like a more round, if you wanted, like I've seen some people, they'll get a round handle that's like this big. It's like a billiard cue big. And I think some of these guys will do it for like motorcycles, and they'll carry it with motorcycles. You're going to have a much shorter whip. But for something like a motorcycle, you don't need anything big. You're not looking to do some Indiana Jones stuff. You're looking for maybe to beat off a dog that's coming after you, or who knows, maybe another biker. But so this is where you got to experiment a little bit if you go beyond this. But that is something. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to continue to go, and we're going to continue to go 3 to 3 until we get down to the last part. And I'll come back and show you that here in a bit. But at eventually you're going to go move over to, instead of doing 3 under 3 over, you're going to go move over to 2 under 2 over. You can do that at any point. At this juncture, you can do that at any point. That is your call. Generally speaking, I would only do that if I'm dealing with an even amount. So I'll bring it back when we get to the end, and then we'll wrap up phase 3. Okay, guys, you're going to get to the point where you're going to have 2 on one side, 3 on the other. You're going to say, what the heck do I do? Here's what you do. We started with 3 under 3 over. We went to 2 under 2 over. Now we're just going to simply move 1 under 1 over. That basic. You're going to go 1 under 1 over, but you want to make sure, and I'm going to say this a lot, and I've already said it a lot, keep this tight. Keep pulling it tight, because we might be able to take a flame through to it or a heat gun to it just to tighten this all up. But you don't want to glaze it, because then you're going to weaken the paracord. We want the flexibility. So making sure you keep it tight. Heck, I've even taken my pliers, and if I saw a little bubble, I'll take these and I will pull, and it'll pull it through and tighten it up. So don't be afraid to do that. So let me finish this up. I'll show you what to do, and we're going to just keep going. 1 under, 1 over, 1 under, 1 over, until we get to the very end of your cord, and then I'll come back to it. So you can see here I'm down to my last 5, and this one's almost done. So I could try and push it, but honestly, I know it's not going to work. So here's what I'm going to do. Take my best friend with this project, super glue. I am just going to put it underneath, like so. Put a little bit of glue right in here. put it there. Grab my pliers, because I already have a ton of glue all over my fingers. I don't need any more. And I'm just going to put it in there. Much like we did with the others, it's going to bury it. So let that sit. Yeah, I kind of screwed up my stuff here, but let that dry. Then I'll come back over and I'll bury it, and we will be on our way. And you know what? Sometimes it happens to the best of us. You lose your place. You know what? Forget it. I am going to go back. And you know what? I'm glad that you're seeing this. So I came over, I did this. So I should have done it this way before. So guys, you're going to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to undo what you've done. Sometimes it gets a little monotonous, or if you're watching something, if you're streaming Netflix or whatever, you might get distracted for a few, and you might go and see, oh man, I am off. That's okay. It's completely okay. Undo what you did, and then just go back and fix it. So now we're at a point where we're just going to go 1 and 1. And we're just going to do this and continue to do it until we get down to about this much, actually about 6 inches left. So we're going to just keep doing 1 and 1. We're just going to keep braiding like that, and just keep coming to it like that. And then once you get to that point, you're done with phase 3. And then we move on to the final part of finishing up this whip. So for this evening, I'm going to say get down to the last 6 inches of this cord, of your last 4. Get down to the last 6 inches, and then clamp it off, stop for the night, and we'll pick it back up tomorrow. So I will talk to you all then. Okay, so we're near the end here, and there's 2 different ways you can do this. You can do the end, or what whip makers call the fall. You could do that by just completing this and calling it done. Now with that though, you're going to have a fatter end piece, because it's going to be not just this, but these are all going to come to it, and it's going to be blunt. You may not get the crack of the whip that you're accustomed to. The other option is to take a 4-foot piece like this and hollow it out. And what you're going to do is take your threading needle. You're going to put it in here. And what you're going to do is, once you get it in there good and secure, you're going to find the midpoint. So the midpoint is right about here. So what I'm going to do is
Get myself all wrapped up here. So what you're going to do is you're going to find that midpoint and you're going to pierce it, kind of like you're doing the Manny method at the midpoint. And you're going to work your way. Now, if I had a smaller, this will work better if you have a smaller set of needles, but I do not. So, and I don't make enough whips that it's something I really need to invest in. So now you just got to work it, and that could take some time. You know, if you got a tool, or you might get I get a thin um, a thin oh, words are hard today. A thin screwdriver, but you're just going to work that. And that's really all you're doing, is you're just gonna work that to the very end. And we'll do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, when it's done, it's gonna look something like this. You're gonna have kind of a loop or noose, and then you may have, see, I keep a little bit extra, and I'll show you why here in a little bit. We will finish this off, but now we have to tie, this is called the fall. Now we have to tie the hitch for the fall. So you see I have this all here, hemostated. I'm gonna undo. And what you're gonna do, and I'm gonna tell you what, guys, this is kind of a pain in the butt, but you're gonna put this through so that all 5 pieces go in, and then right about here, to match the black, we're going to tighten it up. And this is why you need that noose, is so you can tighten it up. So you tighten. And we'll fix the look here. So now we have the fall. Now what we have to do is tie off the fall. So let's do that. And for that, I'm going to move the camera and get a better angle. Give me a second. Okay, so what we're going to do here, you can see I've kind of angled it here, so I'm going to try and match the pattern, since I am doing a pattern. If I wasn't doing a pattern, it wouldn't be as big of a deal. So we have this. We have these two here. Okay. So I'm going to go around and down. I'm going to tighten that a little bit, not a lot. Then go again. As you see, I'm going to undo this. So I got it like so. Here is my fall. I'm lining it up with the black so it kind of matches. But I'm going to go around
all of these and down. And tighten that up a little bit. And then with this one, go around and then down. So it's like that. Then I'm going to do the last green one. We're going to go around. Actually, around and down. And then for the last one, rather than going, so you're going to still go around, but then rather than going down, you're going to go up. And that keeps this from completely falling apart. So now it looks like complete crap right now, but we are going to clean this up. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to tighten this up. And you kind of come in and you tighten these all up, all of them. All your little knots and your pieces. Then what we're going to do, you're going to take your needle and you're going to take this piece and you're actually, what I would actually say is you go, we're going to go and loop it. This is why you don't want to completely have it tightened. I would rather let you guys see that I do mess up and that way when you mess up, you don't feel like, oh, I'm doing this wrong or it's impossible or I'm never going to get it. Man, we all do it. We all do it. Even the best of us. Okay. So then I'm going to just, and that totally came out. I am having a day, let me tell you. You ever have one of those days when your fingers just don't want to work? Okay, let's see if this does it. Yep. So, and I just pulled that through. Okay. So I pulled that through. Now I'm going to tighten all the others. Tighten this one. Tighten this one. Tighten this black one. I'm going to pull that through. And then tighten again. Tighten again. And repeat. Now, you're looking at this going, yeah, that's great, Joe, but what about this, the orange? Yep, I know. So, as far as that goes, there's a couple different ways to handle it. Here's how I handle it. I pull up a little bit, and I'm just going to snip it. Snip it. Grab my torch. Squeeze. And then pull. So it's there. It's still there. It's just not viewable now. Okay, now these other pieces, same thing. I'm going to snip. They're going to stay as tassels. It's not going to hurt anything. Same with this one. Get that in there. Now we got this black one here. I gotta pull that. Get that really tight. Snip it. That in there, and then this last one, now some people may try and tuck it. I'm not going to. I'm just going to, and then I'm just going to kind of put it in right like so. Okay, now the last thing that you will need to do, there's a couple of different ways for this main piece at least. There's a couple different ways to do this. Some people will just take this and they smash it down. What I like to do is either take a rubber mallet or a tack hammer, either which, and I'll just come in and I rotate it. And it's just to kind of flatten it out and the like. Okay, now the last piece is the very end of the fall. So you have all of this here. What do you need to do? Well, what I do is I snip If you have scissors, you can use that too. Those scissors, I need to replace those scissors. Okay. Then you're going to take that. But I always pinch it. So it's like this. Okay. And now, the last piece, and I'm going to have to move the camera to show you this. So now that it's all done, what you're going to want to do is just kind of, because you have probably compressed it and not even know that you've done that. You're going to want to flex it. And now comes the fun part. Whether you are keeping this for yourself or you're giving it away, you're going to want to work it out. You're probably going to whip yourself a couple of times, so get used to it. And that, my friends, is how you can make a paracord whip. So now that we're done, comes the fun part. Well, number one, if you wanted to put a little pommel on here, you can. I don't. It's up to you. But anyway, here's the fun part. Would you like to win this? Because you can. All you need to do is leave a comment and you will get one entry. Like and subscribe, you get another entry. All the comments that are left on this will get added up. I will use a random number generator and select one winner. And I will do that December 31st. So, between now and December 31st, you will have an opportunity to win this paracord whip. If you don't want to take that chance, or if you'd like, use this video and make your own. But until then, thanks for watching. Thanks for waiting the several months it took to make this video. And until next time, keep paracording. Later.